Today on a spicy production, we're going to make egg noodles. We're going to use some of that beautiful chicken broth that we made. We're going to pair it with a crostini. First, we need about 4 cups of flour and 4 eggs. You can double, triple, quadruple this recipe. Just 1 cup of flour and 1 egg. 1 cup of flour and 1 egg. Then you want to mix the dough by beating the eggs and bring the flour into the dough until it makes a dough. Then just use your hands and let the dough take as much flour as it wants. It depends on the day. If it's humid out, you're going to take less flour, it seems like. If it's dry out, it seems like you use a little more flour. Lightly flour your board and your rolling pin. Fold it up and roll it out, fold it up and roll it out until you end up with a smooth elastic dough. Roll it out to about 1/8 of an inch thick. I can go even thinner than that, maybe even a 1/16. Then I like to use a pizza wheel to roughly cut my noodles lengthwise, and then I'll go across and cut them to length. You don't want them too long. Long noodles might look like they're fun and they might look pretty on a bowl, but they're really difficult to eat. Especially these big chunky noodles. These egg noodles actually turn out more like a dumpling, I guess. So then we're going to sprinkle a little more flour on it just to get down into those cut edges so that they don't stick together when we bring the next step, which is scraping them up and separating them and then tossing them in flour. I like keeping these out on the counter for a little bit of time to kind of let them dry out some. They seem to take more broth that way, so they get a little more tender and more flavorful. You can just throw them directly in. They might just be a little tougher to bite. Just spread everything out, kind of let it dry out, like I said, a little bit. Next, we're going to talk about our crostini. This is just a store-bought loaf baguette. And I'm just cutting it into 8 equal pieces, as equal as you can. And this whole meal's kind of rustic. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I just like to split them in half, and I'll put a little olive oil on them and spread the pesto. Put them on a foil-lined sheet pan. There you see me putting some olive oil down, followed by a couple scoops of just your store-bought basil garlic pesto. This turns out to be like the best garlic bread on the planet. I like cutting the bread that way specifically so that you've got at least a couple edges that aren't as crusty, so they won't hurt the inside of your mouth as bad. Here I'm putting some onions and some garlic into my pot with a little bit of butter and some olive oil. And then I'm going to throw a little flour in there. This just helps to thicken things up. This is just small roux. If you're not familiar with roux, they're great thickening agents for all kinds of stuff. You can cook them down to various, levels. This is just a very, very blonde roux. You see, this is the chicken stock we made in our bone broth episode. You see the gelatin content in that stock. that's some gelatin. That's what's going to give this dish its really good, filling, satisfying taste. I'm going to get that off the counter burner and bring it over to the stove. Now we're just dropping the noodles in one at a time. Kind of scatter them out so that they don't end up sticking all together in a big old ball in the bottom of the pot. These noodles will end up floating up when they're done, so as you're going, you might see your first handful start coming up to the surface while you're putting your second handful in. So, in order to ensure that everything's cooking relatively evenly after you get all your noodles in, then I'll just give them a good stir and let them go for a little while. And the noodles are done. So turn the heat down or off, and you can just let them kind of sit and hang out, and they'll soak up some of the more of that broth. Now we've got the oven on broil, and we're going to put our bread in. Watch the bread closely. It's very easy to burn. It only needs to be in there about 3 to 5 minutes. And then we'll put everything into a bowl. Ladle some broth in. Drop some noodles in. And have your bread. It's a great meal for a weeknight. It's pretty easy just to throw together. It's also a great meal for if people are sick in your house. That broth is full of good stuff. And it's just all around good in the colder months. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe.